It's Anzac Day, 2007, a national holiday here in Australia. I'm 14 and out with a couple of mates and we're goofing around on skateboards in the Perth CBD. The skateboarding is not very good. I swear we got at least marginally better. I can still kickflip to this day. Nearly. The footage is not very good either. This was a time before mobile phones with good cameras. The original iPhone wasn't even out yet, and it was over a year before I'd buy my first camcorder. Still, we were excited to be filming anything at all. If memory serves me correctly, we used a cheap Chinese MP4 player with an included camera that gave my computer a virus once I plugged it in. Regardless, it's a memory that's very fond to me, as it was the first time I ever left the suburbs to skateboard, a hobby I would continue for the rest of my teenage years. I'm glad this particular memory was caught on video, even if my head is only 5 pixels wide. Enough about me and my nostalgic mumblings, however. I bring this up because we were skateboarding at the Perth Entertainment Centre. The reason we could do this without getting kicked out by security, an occurrence that would usually happen multiple times on such a visit to the city, was because by this point, it had already been mothballed for 5 years. I remember peering through the windows and seeing the tills and wall-mounted TVs that seemed like antiques even in 2007. Being teenagers, we of course tried to get in. We circled the entire structure to look for an open door or window, but of course were unsuccessful. We were unruly, but not enough to break a window. Commonly known as the PEC, during its heyday, it was an indoor arena and cinema on the edge of the Perth CBD. Over the years, it hosted many famous acts such as David Bowie, Michael Jackson, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It was also home to several basketball teams and various other events like the 1979 Miss Universe, where the stage collapsed. A staple of any photo of the Perth skyline facing south, I was always fascinated by how faux futuristic it looked. Built during the 70s, it had a stunning space-age design. I wouldn't have been surprised if it decided to take off into outer space. Of course, that didn't happen. Instead, it was demolished in 2011 to make way for a much grander structure and a massive project to revitalise that part of town. Fast forward to the present day, my knees and hips are too messed up from skateboarding to continue pop shoveling off everything I can. So, instead I have a road bike. Yeah, that's me in my 30s. I would have loved to see my 14-year-old's face if I told him that. I was scrolling through Google Maps in its awesome 3D mode recently to suss out a ride for the weekend, and was shocked to discover there are still remains of the PEC, nearing 15 years after demolition. So, what is the story of this arena? Why was it demolished? And what remains today? The PEC opened in late 1974 and included a capacity of over 8,000 seats. Its construction was a joint venture between Channel 7 and an entrepreneur named Micheal. Its striking design was thanks to the architecture firm Hobbs, Winning and Layton. They were known for many big projects around Perth at the time, including the Fremantle Ports Administration building. Construction costs blew out because of industrial action, however, which put the venue under financial strain as soon as it opened. At the very least, it was listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as being the largest purpose-built theatre in the world that contained a proscenium arch. I'm sure that made the owners feel better. It was originally called the Channel 7 Edgeley Entertainment Centre, but by 1975, the government took up ownership of the structure and was renamed to the Perth Entertainment Centre. Also in 1975, twin cinemas were opened as part of the complex. These would close in 1996 and remain empty until demolition. Its decline was a common story for such structures. It did have a solid operating period of nearly 3 decades, but eventually, larger and more modern venues would eat its lunch. One such arena was the Burswood Dome. This massive, imposing concrete structure was opened in 1987 and included an increased capacity of 13,600. Notably, the arena was pressurised to hold up a fiberglass roof 35 metres above the ground. This is a venue I personally visited more often, seeing acts such as Green Day and Metallica. It would receive the same fate as the PEC, however, being demolished in 2013. That parcel of land is now a car park, but the Burswood Dome lives on as a boundary. Back to the PEC. The final band to play was Tool, with Melvins as the support act, on May 4th, 2002. After that, as far as I can tell, its only visitors would be security guards, urban explorers, the homeless, and of course, greasy-haired teenagers on skateboards. It was demolished in 2011 for the Perth City Link project. This was an initiative to connect the CBD with the entertainment precinct of Northbridge by sinking the train line that once ran behind the PEC. This is a project that continues to this day and includes the PEC's predecessor, the Perth Arena, which is now situated where the PEC's car park was. This opened in late 2012 and includes a capacity of 15,500. That whole area of Perth looks completely different now compared to the PEC's heyday, which made it all the more shocking when I discovered remains. I would have walked right past the location many times since demolition without realising it too. There is a massive wooden wall around the entire lot. It doesn't look that high on camera or street view, but I'm 6'2" and couldn't even reach over the top to film a glimpse. Luckily, there is pedestrian access to circle around the entire perimeter, and there are a few gaps to sneak a peek. What there is to see isn't that amazing, but I find it interesting that it's there to begin with. What we can see are some concrete steps, footing, and even some bitumen. Since the surrounding area has changed so much, I wasn't even sure this was the location of the PEC when I spotted it on Google Maps. But cross-checking aerial photography, it appears to have been part of the cinema. It perfectly lines up with the curve of the structure. Looking at the remains from a different angle, it appears there is even still red paint on the steps. Clicking through time on Landgate, we can see that a lot more of the footing survived the initial demolition. Just to the east, the HBF building was constructed right over the top of a portion, with the steps surrounding concrete and bitumen used as a staging area. I wonder if the footing survived and was reused. Seems unlikely, but it's strange any of it would exist after demolition regardless. There is currently another vacant lot to the north that would have been within the footprint of the PEC, but I couldn't see any remains in person, and it's difficult to tell from historical imagery if any was left in the first place. You do have to wonder if it's just buried though. So then, what is to happen to this site? There was a project announced several years ago by local friendly billionaire Kerry Stokes that would comprise a 27-storey tall commercial tower for $180 million. The whole precinct is called King Square, and this would have been called the King Square 5 Tower. As you can see, however, no site works have started. All the advertising on the wooden wall has been scrubbed off too. That website is no longer online, and unfortunately there aren't even any Wayback Machine captures. I saw comments on Reddit that Stokes had sold the lot last year, but I was unable to find a more solid source of information. Regardless, as of the making of this video, there are no indications that anything will happen on the site anytime soon. So, if you would like to view this unspectacular piece of concrete that represents a very important part of Perth's history, get down to 580 Wellington Street post haste to check it out. If we're lucky, any new development may even incorporate it.